Hello and welcome to Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. My name is Kelly and I'm a former wedding planner and blogger, and I'm obsessed with weddings. If you're planning a wedding in Ireland, you're in the right place. You're going to learn the tried and tested methods to planning your dream wedding without the added stress. Think of this as your one-stop shop for everything to do with planning your wedding in Ireland, with me, your new wedding planning bestie, and a cup of tea. This is Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. Well, happy Valentine's Day and welcome to a brand new episode of Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. Today, we're talking all about keeping the romance alive while you plan your wedding. Because, it's Valentine's Day and you should be celebrating all things love. So I'm going to be walking you through just a few things that you can do to just make sure that you and your other half are investing in your relationship, in your future marriage, and you're not allowing wedding planning to just take over everything. In fact, that is my very first piece of advice. Don't let the wedding take over. And I know it's easier said than done. And there will come a time in your wedding planning journey where wedding planning probably is going to be the main thing you think about. But for the most part, there are some practical steps you can put in place to make sure that you are still investing in your relationship, and not every available moment will be spent on wedding planning or talking about the wedding. So I always recommend to couples to start out by having a wedding planning day. So this could be Monday nights or Saturday mornings or whatever works for you. But initially, let that be the time that you and your other half sit down and you plan your wedding and, you talk about anything to do with the wedding. And then you don't allow the wedding to be something that you plan at every possible moment, because at least initially it's not needed. As you get closer to the wedding, you'll need to have a bit more time that you focus on it during the week. But at least at the beginning stages, stick with a day. It could be in like 1 or 2 evenings or an evening and a morning, whatever works for you. If you work part-time and you're able to have, a full day in the week that you guys sit down and focus on the wedding, go for it. I also recommend, in the spirit of not letting the wedding take over, spend time together and also with your friends where wedding talk is not on the table. And it could be things where you're literally just asking your friends about how work is going, how their family life is going, what they've been up to. It just helps to make sure that you're not filling every single moment with the wedding by just having normal life go by. And your friends will thank you for it as well. I recommend the couples stick with their date night. So every couple has a different system. Some couples have a particular night where every week that's their date night no matter what, and they don't make any other plans for that night. Some couples like it to be a little bit more, ad hoc, where every week they just find time to be together. Whatever system works for you, stick with it. Don't use all your couple time as wedding planning time, but also spend time together just having dates and enjoying being in each other's company. And now, I understand that if you're planning a wedding and maybe you're paying for it yourself, maybe money is a bit of a problem and you don't have all the extra cash lying around to be going on dates. But there's a lot you can do to spend time together without spending tons of money. You could cook some meals at home together, have a romantic date night in. You could watch movies on Netflix or Prime. You could go for walks. You could grab a cup of coffee together instead of a whole meal. I also find, actually, when possible, my husband and I like to go out for breakfast together, because you can really fill up on a tasty breakfast, and it's usually like half the price of going out for an evening meal, not having to worry about having a beer or a cocktail or a starter and a dessert. Like, a breakfast is awesome. And then you can go for a little walk afterwards. Just basically the point here is to stick with your dates. You may want to play games together. I love playing Yahtzee and Scrabble and those types of things. And it's just a great way to bond with your partner. And I mentioned this before, but when you're having those dates, you could have a rule in place that wedding talk is completely off limits. And then you can really talk to your partner about them and about yourself. Ask about some of the important questions in life, like what do you see in our future, that kind of thing. Or even just simple things like, how was your week? What did you get up to? Like, what are some of the fun things you've been doing at work? Or what are some of the hobbies that you're really enjoying at the moment? Just really make sure that you and your partner spend time with each other without the wedding being the only thing that keeps you together. And this is going to seem like kind of the opposite suggestion, but it is important to also have some time apart. You're probably thinking, how will spending time apart keep the romance alive? But actually, have you ever heard that phrase, absence makes the heart grow fonder? And I'm definitely not suggesting playing hard to get or any of those like weird, unnecessary games, because this is your future spouse, of course. I'm more suggesting that you invest in your individual hobbies and you do some things on your own or just apart from each other so that when you come together, you actually have something to talk about. So if you really enjoy running and your partner is super into like their fantasy football team or something like that, carry on doing those things apart. And then when you come together, you can be like, oh my gosh, I had the best run a couple of days ago. I hit my PB. And your partner could say, oh my gosh, my fantasy football team is doing so badly. I don't know what to do. I keep putting in the wrong whatever. I don't actually know enough about fantasy football to give you anything to contribute to that conversation. But the point here is to just keep up with the things that you usually do apart. So when you come together, you have something to talk about. And it's not just about the wedding. You want to keep the relationship like exciting, and that's how you keep the romance alive. When it comes to wedding planning, find wedding planning tasks that you can really bond over. So you want to make sure that you and your partner are both really excited about wedding planning, that it's not just another list of tasks that you're doing, but things that actually help bring you together in the process. So you don't want to be arguing over the linens and, should we invite this person from your side of the family? And I can't believe that your mother wants to have this person come. And I can't believe that your family really wants to do this thing that we don't want to do. Don't worry about those things for now. Find the things that really bring you guys together. For example, practice your first dance. And it could just be dancing around the lounge, or it could be having really proper lessons with people who know how to choreograph a first dance. You can choose your key wedding songs together, the songs that you're going to walk down the aisle to, the songs that you'll have for your first dance, and maybe when you walk into the reception venue. Like, spend time thinking about those moments and make those decisions together. You can also practice posing for photos. This is especially fun if you're not actually very comfortable in front of the camera, and you can just be a little bit silly together and just practice like how you would pose in different moments. And of course, don't forget to kiss. It keeps the romance alive, but it also helps you to prepare for that moment where you're going to kiss in front of like everyone. And what about things like making a slideshow together? If you plan on showing any photos at any point in the wedding, whether that's, a literal slideshow on a screen, or you're going to display photos, on a photo wall, or you're incorporating photos of your childhood in your decor or your centerpieces, spend time looking through those photos together and relive memories, tell stories, and those types of things will really help you to focus on the relationship more so than the actual task at hand, but you'll still be doing something productive while bonding together. I always recommend, where possible, that couples make their wedding planning decisions together. I also understand that in some instances, one partner will spearhead the wedding planning and the other partner will spearhead things like the honeymoon or purchasing a home or whatever other things you have on the go. And so it doesn't necessarily have to mean that every single decision is something that you both agree on 100%, but it just means that while you're planning, you remember this fact. We're a team and we need to be on the same page. So it means not letting outside voices be louder than the voice of your partner. So if you really want to have a particular color for your wedding and your partner thinks the color is terrible, and all your sisters are saying, no, but this color is amazing, listen to your partner and come up with an agreement together. Problem solve together. Make sure that you're on the same page as one another and that you remember that you guys are building a relationship, and so therefore you can problem solve as a team. So I recommend that the big wedding planning decisions are the ones that you really are in agreement about. Things like the date, the venue, the overall aesthetic of the wedding. Make sure that you guys are in agreement together. And then there'll be some other decisions where your partner really wants something and it doesn't actually matter to you, and you can just say, yes, let's do that. If that makes you happy, we're going to do it. And there'll be other things where you are really excited about a particular thing and your partner isn't bothered with how it's done. So they'll say, yeah, let's do that. It just means making each other happy. Find out what things are important to your partner. If you're the one who's spearheading the wedding planning, it can be really easy for your partner to stop caring about it altogether, especially the details. So ask what's important. And it could be so many different things. My husband really wanted the meal to be a plated meal that is brought out by waiters and served to everyone. And to be honest, I didn't really care how the meal was served. I had an idea of the kind of food that I liked, but I didn't really mind how it was served. And because I knew that that was important to him, I made sure that that was important to me. And that was a priority for us, was how the meal was going to be served. It could be something like the first dance song. Maybe your partner is a dancer or a musician, or just really has an opinion about what the song should be and the style of dance. And whether or not you're, super into that, just, find out what's important to them and just say, we're going to make that a priority. It could be the flavor of the cake or the color of the flowers, whatever it is. Make sure your partner knows that you really want their input, and what's important to them is important to you, and you're going to plan this wedding together. And while we're talking about wedding planning, it's also important to put it aside for a moment and to plan your future, because beyond the wedding, you've got the marriage and you have other things that you may want to be thinking about. Here are some examples. Do you guys want to buy a house together at some point? Have you always thought about starting a family? Maybe you've always wanted to do something totally out there, like run a marathon or something, and you've just never trained for it. And that's something, in your future. It's just a goal that you have. Or maybe you've always wanted to start a business separately or together. The fact here is to just think about the milestones, think about the future, and don't allow the wedding to completely distract you from your future as a couple, from some of the goals that you have, from some of the things that you really want to do. And that's what's going to help keep that romance alive, is to be thinking, hey, when the wedding's finished, we get to go on honeymoon, or we get to, decorate our house together, or we're buying a house and we're going to renovate. It's just reminding yourselves that you've got all these things that will happen beyond just the wedding. So let's just recap quickly. To keep the romance alive while you plan your wedding, make sure that wedding planning doesn't take over. Stick to your date night, or if you don't have a date night, why not create one? Have some time apart, because it gives you something to talk about when you're together. Find wedding planning tasks that you can really bond over. Make your decisions together, at least the big and important ones. Find out what's important to your partner, and of course, don't forget to plan for your future. Well, thank you for listening today. The Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online podcast is produced by me, Kelly, and mixed, mastered, and edited by Glenn Hartman. For more wedding planning tips, advice, checklists, and more, visit weddingsonline.ie.